A rat swam for only 15 minutes, then died. The same rat, rescued for just 3 minutes, swam for 60 hours. Science calls it hope, and it might explain everything about your life. In the 1950s, a psychobiologist named Curt Richter ran an experiment nobody talks about anymore. What he found changed how scientists think about survival and the human mind. By the end of this video, it may change how you think about your own. But to understand what he discovered, we need to go back to a laboratory and a bucket of water. Imagine this. You are dropped into deep water. No shore, no ladder, no escape. You swim, minute after minute. Your arms burn. Your body becomes heavy. You fight harder, but eventually, a terrifying thought enters your mind. What if nobody is coming? Now imagine something even stranger. What if survival had nothing to do with strength, nothing to do with intelligence, nothing to do with food? What if survival depended entirely on hope? In the 1950s, a scientist named Curt Richter conducted one of the most disturbing experiments in the history of psychology. He was working at Harvard, and what he discovered became one of the most repeated stories in science. A story so powerful that millions of people still share it today. Because if it is true, it reveals something frightening about animals, and perhaps about us. The experiment seems simple. Take rats. Place them in containers filled with water. Then watch. At first, the rats fought desperately, swimming, paddling, searching frantically for any way out. But eventually, something strange happened. Many of them simply stopped. They stopped trying. They gave up. On average, after around 15 minutes, they would sink. Think about that for a moment. 15 minutes. These are rats, natural swimmers. Physically, they were capable of far more. But mentally, something had broken. Then Richter tried something different. Just before some of the rats reached total exhaustion, just before they gave up for the last time, he removed them from the water. He dried them off. He let them rest, only for a few minutes. And then he placed them back in. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. These rats had just swum until failure. Their muscles were exhausted. Their bodies were spent. They had already reached what seemed like their absolute limit. So how long do you think they lasted the second time? Another 15 minutes? 10? Maybe 5? No. 60 hours. That is not a misprint. 60 hours of swimming. The same animals that gave up after 15 minutes suddenly kept going for days. Not because their muscles changed, not because they had more energy, not because the water got easier. Richter believed something else had changed entirely. The rats had experienced rescue. They had felt what it was like to be saved. And because of that experience, some part of them now believed that rescue was possible again. They did not know rescue was coming, but they believed it might. And that belief changed everything. For decades, this experiment spread everywhere. Motivational speakers repeated it. Videos repeated it. Therapists referenced it. And honestly, the reason it keeps spreading is because it feels true. It resonates with something deep inside us. But here is where I want to be honest with you, because this channel is not about making you feel good with false stories. This channel is about what science actually found. Modern researchers have looked closely at Richter's original work, and the details are messier than the internet version suggests. Some accounts say 40 hours, others say 60. Some experiments used wild rats, others used domesticated ones, and the conditions varied in ways that matter. The popular story grew in the retelling. Numbers got rounded, nuance got dropped, the 60-hour figure became accepted as fact. But here is what is fascinating. Even the scientists who question the legend do not dismiss the core finding. Because the data did show something real. Rats that experienced rescue did survive significantly longer. The mechanism is debated. The exact numbers are uncertain, but the direction of the effect, that appears to be genuine. So what is actually happening in the brain? Why would the mere experience of rescue extend the will to survive? Your brain is not a passive observer of reality. It is a prediction machine. Right now, in this moment, your brain is making thousands of predictions per second about what will happen next, about whether your effort will matter, about whether things will get better or worse. And those predictions change your behavior before reality even arrives. This is not philosophy. This is neuroscience. When researchers gave patients sugar pills and told them the pills would reduce pain, the patients reported less pain. Brain scans showed actual changes in how pain signals were processed. When teachers were told that certain students were about to intellectually bloom, those students actually improved more, even though the selection was completely random. When marathon runners were told they were approaching the finish line earlier than they actually were, they accelerated. The belief changed the biology. The prediction changed the performance. Expectation is not just emotion. Expectation is a physiological force. And this is what Richter may have been capturing in his rats. Not magic, not mysticism, but the concrete, measurable effect of what the nervous system does when it believes survival is possible. Now I want to bring this back to you. Think about your own life for a moment. Think about a time you were exhausted. Not physically, mentally, emotionally. Maybe it was a project that kept failing. Maybe it was a relationship that kept hurting. Maybe it was a dream you kept chasing and never catching. How many people stopped swimming, not because they lacked ability, but because they stopped believing anything would change? How many artists gave up 1 year before their breakthrough? How many scientists abandoned experiments 1 trial before the result? How many students quit just before they would have understood? The data on human performance consistently shows that expectation changes outcomes. Not every time. Hope is not a guarantee. The rat experiment does not promise rescue. It simply shows that the belief in possible rescue extends how long a creature is willing to fight, and fighting longer changes odds. Therefore, here is something the popular version almost never mentions. Richter was not studying hope. He was actually studying stress. Specifically, he was studying what happened when animals faced hopeless situations. He called it sudden death from hopelessness. His original paper was about how a sense of hopelessness could trigger cardiac failure. The rats that gave up in 15 minutes, some of them did not just tire, their hearts gave out. Richter believed that wild rats died so quickly because they were so psychologically overwhelmed by the inescapable situation that their nervous systems essentially shut down. It was not exhaustion that killed them first. It was the certainty that nothing they did mattered. Think about that. hopelessness as a physiological killer, not metaphorical, literal. And then when rescue happened, when the certainty of doom became uncertainty again, survival instinct flooded back. The body was the same. The world was the same. Only the prediction had changed. And that was enough. Why does this story keep spreading? Why does a rat experiment from the 1950s end up shared millions of times on Reddit, on Instagram, in sermons and therapy sessions and motivational talks? Because everyone has felt like that rat. Everyone has had a moment in deep water. Everyone has felt the exhaustion of fighting without knowing if it matters. And the story says something that feels unbearably important. It says, one moment of rescue changes everything. Not permanent rescue, not guaranteed rescue, just the evidence that rescue is possible. A single teacher who believed in you, a single friend who stayed, a single moment where someone said, I see you. Keep going. That can be the difference between 15 minutes and 60 hours. Professor Curt Richter died in 1988. He spent his life studying the relationship between the mind and the body, between belief and biology, between hope and survival. The full truth of his experiment is complicated. Science is always complicated. But the question his work raised has never gone away. Can the belief that rescue is coming extend the will to survive? The evidence says, yes, not always, not infinitely, but measurably, meaningfully. So I will leave you with one question: if hope can cause exhausted rats to swim for 60 hours, what could belief in yourself, in your abilities, in the possibility of rescue do for you? Remember what you are capable of. Remember why you are here. Keep swimming. Life is about swimming with hope.